Are we recording yet?
Yeah. We're going. Right now.
So I said something egregious today.
What was that?
What did you say?
Was it the Zion thing?
Yeah. I said, I was watching the Duke-Virginia game and kind of popped into my head as I was watching Zion Williamson play that he reminds me of Lance Stevenson, so...
He's just a tubbier Lance.
Yeah, I decided to... Our little Facebook chat, I said, I'm ready to proclaim that Zion Williamson is just a pudgy Lance Stevenson with hops. And
It's pretty much true, man. I have never seen that dude take a jump shot.
Pat's like, yeah!
Dude, I'm looking at something, man. Drake's got every single NFL team on his shirt. That's funny.
Is there a Drake curse? What's that about?
Every time he wears somebody's...
oh, he had an Alabama hoodie on before the national championship game.
In terms of Zion Williamson and your Lance Stevenson comparison, there's a lot of sons at the end of all of those words. Yeah. It's not too far-fetched, and the dude just dunked literally 10 times tonight in the game I just watched. All he did was dunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Out of control ass dribble. Honestly, it was a good dunk. He got fouled.
Yeah.
So Lance Stevenson might shoot better.
Yeah. I was thinking about that while I was driving over here, too. I was like, that's going to sound like it's, like, shitting on Zion, which, I don't know, for a college player, I guess Lance Stevenson with hops I'm not saying he's horrible, but I don't know. I just think people that consider him to be, like, this franchise-altering first overall pick, I don't see it yet. He's not going to be... I mean, it's no slam, but he's not going to be, like, LeBron or Anthony Davis.
He's not Shaq.
Right. Like, he's not going to... I don't see him come into the NBA next year and just, like, you know, completely turning around a
franchise.
Yeah, like a floundering franchise, like the Bulls or the Knicks. I mean...
I think I'd rather see Shaq bring the ball up court than watch Zion do it, though.
I know. It's like I'm not trying to, like... I think he's got potential, but that's the thing. I think he's kind of like... He's got some work to do on the offensive end.
Stop shitting on him.
I think he's getting by with, like, his size and athleticism over college players right now. I just don't... It's not going to translate right away against, you know... Man, veteran NBA players.
They talked about how Krzyzewski talked about how great is bringing the ball up court and everything. It looked like he lost the ball about 3 times before he switched hands and dunked.
It looked like he was getting ready to kick it around for sure.
This is Wally Zerbiak in the making right there.
Man, you just said Wally Zerbiak and fucking Zion Williamson in the same sentence.
It's kind of the same player, isn't it?
Well, Wally can shoot.
Zion can't. That's the only difference.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah. His handle was kind of like reminding me a little bit of a Kogi.
Wally actually was decent on defense. People just hated on him because he had to guard all the threes.
People hated on him because he got kicked in his face by Bruce Bowen.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, that's it.
One play.
Yep.
Well, here's the deal, guys. We're on episode 2 here of our PodCrewMN podcast. The first thing I want to start with is a big thank you. A thank you to all our listenership, everybody that's been supporting us, everybody that's been plugging our podcast. It's actually a huge deal. It's much appreciated. And to give you an idea of how important you guys have been, I wanted to go over, you know, some of our goals, which was mainly my goals, more internal, that we discussed here. And they were kind of far-fetched. It was more pie in the sky than anything. This is something that we're doing for fun. We're definitely not ever trying to... We're not selling people a bill of goods here. We're not trying to make money off of anybody. But support is the biggest thing, and that's how we can keep growing. The one thing I'll say is our goals were... We needed 10,000 minutes watched before August, before football season. We need 4,000 subscribers before August, and we need 5,000 views before August. Now, the reason why I said before August is because August is the beginning of the football season. So going into the football season, theoretically, with all of us knowing a ton about football, we know more about football in the Minneapolis market than the people who cover the football. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't care what people are saying or if they question us on that. We ask for questions. People are sending us questions now. I'm telling you that if you're looking for real football and basketball coverage, this is where you're going to want to go. This is the alternative. So, and I think people are picking up on that. Now, I went over the goals here by August. The reason is because we've invested $2,354 into our equipment to start this hobby. To be in the black before next year, we needed to get to August with them numbers, because then YouTube will start sending us income for advertising, which then will go back into paying off that $2,354. As of right now, after 1 week, one podcast, I guess it's been 2 weeks, but one podcast as of right now, we have minutes watched 1,133. We have 300 views and 21 subscribers. With that type of, I guess, momentum and what not only our subscribers have been doing, but what us and our friends have been pushing, we're on pace to break this goal by May, which August was already pie in the sky numbers. So
probably even faster if we keep talking about numbers, you know.
Right, exactly. Seriously. So one thing that we wanted to do, we're talking about actually giving back to the community. With this type of momentum, maybe in the next year, if we get in the black and we become profitable, we're going to reinvest into better studio equipment. We might even build a studio in the back of Pat's yard. Who the hell knows?
Never know.
You never know.
We got 3 handymen right here.
Right, exactly. So
I'll build it by myself.
Okay, 1 handyman.
Well, I just wanted to. I mean, with that being said, we're saying thank you right now for the last 2 weeks for everybody's support. Today, me and Pat went to a card show. There's about 200 people there. We talked to the owner of the card show, and he said that he wants to do our podcast from the card show, and would let us do it for free. So that's another thing that we might be able to take advantage of. It's a guy named Rob. He owns Twin City Sports Cards. So I'm pretty excited about that. You never know what type of opportunities are going to come along the line here for us. We're just going to try to maximize on all of them. But at the same time, we're not going to sway away from what we do best, which is talk sports. Our opinions are elite. They're second to none. If we were just talking about the draft the other day, and I woke up in the morning and I text you guys and I say, man, I know a lot about football. I already picked out our draft pick. It's already in the first mock. And I was talking about moving a Reef to guard. So
genius.
I'm on a different level here. No, I'm just kidding.
Are you talking about Jonah Williams?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, it'd be super nice. So
I mean, if he's there,
well, all the I've looked at 3 mocks now that have Jonah Williams falling to us.
I've seen him going higher.
I've seen him going higher too.
Yeah. I mean, I hope
would you trade up to get him?
Yeah, I mean, if he's an elite, I mean, they're talking about him being like an all-pro guard. Like they say he can play tackle, but guard is probably his all-pro position, and he could be, one of the best all-pros in all of football. So I would trade up to get him.
Scouts are saying he can be an all-pro guard because of his size, right? But they completely ignore the fact that for how big he is, his feet is elite.
Yeah.
He has ridiculous footwork, which is what you need at the tackle position. And we also need consistency on the backside of Kirk Cousins. So, sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent here, but that's just an example of some of the stuff that you're going to get over the next few months leading into the football season. Obviously, we wanted to talk about today some of the small market, I guess, issues you run into with our basketball team, the Timberwolves, and also even the Twins. What I wanted to ask you, Pat, was we touched on this in our last podcast, mainly TJ touched on how it's an outdoor bar, the Twin Stadium, and how the country club at Target Center's turning the Wolves into another situation where it seems like it's just all local hires and trying to sell tickets. Since Saunders has been hired, what do you think of the outcome that it's been so far? What differently would you see with Tibbs as the coach, and what types of things would you like to see changed?
I mean, at times you can see that the players on the team are playing a little harder, especially in that OKC game. But of course, that was Saunders' first game he was coaching. But since then, I haven't seen a lot out of him, and all I ever see is people on TV talking about how Saunders isn't yelling at his players and how he's just constantly, I don't want to say being nice, but he's being nice to the players, and the players are enjoying themselves and
high fives.
Yeah,
and
high fives and sitting down and
pumping his fists.
You know, the players calling him Rye like he's one of their teammates, and slapping him on the back of the head and all this other stuff, playing around with him. I mean, to me, that's kind of ridiculous. But I mean, I guess that's kind of what you get with a 32-year-old coach coming in. I mean, he's the age of some of these guys that are playing with him. I don't like it. I mean, against Philadelphia, I honestly thought, I was hoping that Tibbs would miraculously show up and start yelling at the players on the sideline. It was ridiculous. The effort they gave in that game was
pathetic.
Pathetic.
They're so weak-minded.
They are.
They're weak freaking minded. And you know why they're weak-minded? Our fans and our media make them weak-minded.
Why did Jimmy Butler show up to that game and circle that game like Teague said they had that game circled? Why did he show up and have that game circled? Why didn't we show up and have that game circled?
Yeah, I tweeted about that. They're saying that the Sixers had that game circled, and I was like, Timberwolves look like they're still wandering around looking for a pen. Not saying enough about circling the game. It looked like they didn't even want. I was watching that game. It looked like most of the Wolves players wanted to be anywhere else on earth other than there, and it was super disappointing. Like, I expected an effort, not even just a requisite effort of any NBA game, but you would like to think that your team would get up for that. Reporting, true or not, whether I believe it or not, the reporting was that, Butler kind of called into question Towns and Wiggins as far as their, dedication and overall, want to, their desire to win. And if you can't even, bring requisite effort on the first game you face them after being traded, like, it was kind of all you needed to know. Like, I mean, I think Butler was kind of validated, until further notice with that effort.
What did we hear, like, before the season started, how he came into practice and beat us with a third-string unit on the court?
Yeah.
And he said he scored, one bucket?
Yeah.
Wouldn't Wiggins and Cat want to show up and beat that guy?
Well,
would the rest of the team want to show up and beat that guy?
Does that lead into Saunders? So the reason I bring it up is because we actually have a question on Facebook here from one of our listeners, Justin Larson. He had a question. It said, Ryan Saunders, cute story or possible solution as a coach for this franchise? Is his cute story and how he's trying to connect with the players on a personal level and not be a coach, is that leading into them being weak-minded?
My thing is, and I was at the game last night, and so I had a lot of time to think about it while I was watching, but I just think the Timberwolves overall, like in franchise history, they just really have no reputation outside of losing. Like, there's no intimidation factor. No teams come into Target Center feeling like it's a tough place to play. They just don't have that, reputation as a winner, and none of our players really have a reputation of, doing anything really to change that, and it's just always going to be that way. Like, I saw a clip of Andrew Wiggins after the game, kind of, he said, we're just going to move on, throw this game away. they're playing Phoenix the next 2 games, and he said, like, reference those as 2 winnable games. And I'm like, you can't even reference those as 2 winnable games. We've lost so-called winnable games this year, and just taking comfort in being able to throw away a bad performance. I mean, last night I wouldn't say it was a bad performance, but I mean, Wiggins down the stretch, he misses free throws again, which is a recurring problem. And then one of the final few possessions, he jumps in the air, not knowing what he's gonna do, throws the ball away for an easy fast break, and 2 free points for the Spurs. It just was demoralizing, on the scoreboard and mentally. And then after the game, you say, we're going to put this one behind us, and we have 2 winnable games coming up. I mean, I don't think the Timberwolves are good enough to consider anything a shoe-in to win, against anybody. So, I don't know. I was disappointed by that.
Pat, you were going over some of the numbers in terms of the Tibbs difference.
Well, let me answer Justin's question, and I won't be long-winded.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I want to say it's both. I think it is. When Tibbs was fired, I have my concerns about Saunders with no head coaching experience to speak of. Taking over an NBA team that's fighting for a playoff spot, I just wasn't thrilled about that. So right now I lean that it's a cute story, but, with his hometown connections, Glenn Taylor obviously is close to his dad. I think he's going to get a chance to be the long-term coach, whether he deserves it or not.
It's definitely a cute story, but it's almost like the luster's passed.
Well, yeah, because it lasted one day. The only person that still cares is Jim Peterson. Seriously, the local media cares because now they get access. So it's a big thing for them. They can go talk to a coach of an NBA team. They can get access to $140 million players, $150 million players. They can write their stories. Tibbs had the locker room shut down. It is what it is. He ran things differently. But with that being said, they had a sense of toughness to them. I don't think there's a sense of toughness to this team anymore. I'm watching sloppy play. The second game that Ryan Saunders was coaching, Teague opened up the game with a turnover. We won the tip. The very first possession of the game, Teague walks right down the court and turns it over. And it was a shitty turnover. It wasn't even a normal... Why is Wiggins disappearing in games, too? Isn't that Saunders?
Well, that's a good point you made, Jason. Yeah. Like, I was thinking about that earlier, too. Like, as I just referenced about the Wolves having no reputation as far as winners, the only thing that really gave them any kind of semblance of toughness was Tom Thibodeau. His past success, obviously, his style is a little more, probably abrasive than people are used to around here. But, I mean, with that, he had some equity as a winner, and he brought some kind of toughness and, personal responsibility as far as players' performance on the court. And I think with that gone, Ryan Saunders doesn't bring any of that. So it's kind of like we're back to square one as far as, this being a Target Center being a tough place to play. Like, Tibbs brought a little bit to that, not enough to make it like a thing where teams actually feared coming in here. But with Saunders, it's just back to square one all over the board, and that goes along with it. It's just back to we're just another NBA team that teams come in here and they're not scared, they're not worried about us putting forth an effort that's gonna blow them off the court.
I mean, why does Chicago still like Tom Thibodeau so much? I mean, because he had success in Chicago. I mean, they gave him more than a couple years, and 1 year with his basically superstar player and Jimmy Butler here in Minnesota. Why did it basically seemed like to the fans that it was a bad move in the first place? I mean, I don't know how many people I've seen talk about how bad of a hire Tibbs was from the moment he got hired. Just because is it because everybody knows
it's
that
the money? Minnesota doesn't like people who make money.
Well, yeah, that probably has something to do with it.
It 100% does. What did he sign for? 26?
It was like $8 million a year, 5 for 40.
Jesus, 40?
Yeah, but
Oh
he
my
had-
God, that's
I
so
mean,
much money.
He had 2 titles, president of basketball operations and the head coach. I mean,
Right. Which is too, honestly, I think a lot of organizations do that, and I think it's too much. Not everybody's Bill Belichick. No matter what sport you're in, not everybody can be that guy.
no.
It's really hard to be a GM and a head coach of a team.
Well, especially with, where Tibbs is coming from. I mean, it has a coach and has him probably knowing that basically all year his job was on the hot seat. He wanted to win now.
Yep.
I mean, if he could somehow have gotten this team in the playoffs or whatever, it'd be tough to fire the guy. But as a president of basketball operations, you also have to kind of, figure into the future and stuff like that. And you just really can't do that.
Who was the best free agent the Wolves have ever signed prior to Tom Thibodeau being here?
Mike James.
Marco
or
Yarick.
maybe Kevin Martin.
Yeah.
And look who
Well-
Tibbs brought in. Taj Gibson, Jeff Teague, Derrick Rose. Who else? I'm missing someone else. Tolliver.
People are going to tell you it's just former Chicago Bulls players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
That's going to be their argument.
Regardless, they're probably... I mean, you could maybe argue Kevin Martin, but those are probably the 4 best free agents the Wolves have ever signed.
Didn't they get Kevin Martin coming off of like an injury though? I mean, I guess I don't really remember that. I mean, that might have been 5 or 6 years ago, but
Yeah, I don't remember if he was injured.
and
I know
he also played for.
he was in the Harden trade, and I think he kind of had a down year in OKC. If I remember right, I don't know if he was injured though, but I mean, he obviously, I don't think his stock was through the roof at the point we signed him.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he was a nice player, but Tibbs brought in, Bulls are not, they're nice players, they're contributors, they're good players, and it's not always been easy to get free agents that are actually good with options to come here.
He's not bringing in bad players. I mean,
So when you ask free agents and the best free agents we signed, are you considering before Thibodeau? Are you considering all the way back to the Flip era? Because obviously Latrell Sprewell would be in that mix as well.
I think we traded for him.
Did we trade for him?
Yeah.
So, literally speaking, all the way back to the beginning of Glenn Taylor buying the team, what is the best free agent that the Wolves have ever signed?
What about Trenton Hassel? Was he a free agent signing? I mean, he turned out okay, but
Off the top of my head, I think he was, yeah, but I mean, he was a role player. He was good at his role, but I just mean, like, I guess you could even say that about the Wolves, the guys that Tibbs signed. I mean, they excel in their role, but even then, like, to have 4 guys that, like I said, had other options, were, actually coveted free agents to come here, just, we didn't have a long history of that, and it was kind of, changed through Tom Thibodeau, so.
I mean, we haven't ever really signed a free agent star. You brought up, Kevin Martin earlier, and he was with OKC the year before, I believe. He came over here and played 77 games, didn't start any, and was just kind of a role player off the bench for OKC. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can say he was kind of a role player too. I mean, yeah, we've never signed
I feel like he was into his
superstar.
30s, too, when we got him, wasn't he?
Yeah, and also he had, that connection with Rick Adelman.
Right.
From playing for him in Sacramento and stuff. So
Fucking Kmart.
I mean, if you want to say Thibodeau's just signing his old Chicago Bulls guys, I mean,
He kind of is. But at the same time, that's a playoff team.
We had nobody to sign any guys before then.
Yeah, I mean, just I guess my thoughts on
Look at how well Rose has worked out.
Yeah, I mean he's number 2 in the West in backcourt All-Star voting.
Is Derrick Rose gone after this year?
Probably.
He's gonna.
Why?
Because he's gonna need more money than the veterans minimum that we're giving him.
So
now.
why don't we pay him more money? He's our own player. We can keep him, right?
I'm worried we're going into another rebuild.
We're rebuilding on a playoff team for the first time in 14 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably are.
It's
going
looking
to
that
Fucking
way.
makes sense.
If you see the Twitter talk, I mean, they want to trade Rose, trade Gibson. I mean, it's going down a path of starting over. You got a 32-year-old head coach with no experience. Like, all the signs are pointing that way, so it's disappointing to me. That's what I feared when Tibbs got fired and it's already starting to go that direction. So it's kind of sad.
I mean, again, all you're hearing on for rumors and stuff as far as, coaches coming in are all guys that we've been through before. I mean, really, what has Fred Hoiberg ever done in the NBA to warrant another opportunity? He got an opportunity in Chicago and
man,
terrible.
Ryan Saunders hasn't even coached a youth basketball team as a head coach. So we've already given the keys to a guy with 0 head coaching experience, and that includes freaking school. That includes high school. That includes college. That includes everything in his life. He has always rode the bench with the players and been that buffer for the head coach. He's always tried to connect with the guys and say, oh, my dad taught me this, and I think you should do things this way. And I just don't know if that's the wave of the future for this team. Is this something that we should be looking forward to? Ryan Saunders? I'm just going to go out and start buying season tickets now because Ryan Saunders, who has 0 coaching experience, is our new basketball coach.
And nobody's going to do that right now. Nobody's going to start buying Timberwolves tickets because they hired Ryan Saunders.
But we fired him. We fired Thibodeau to sell tickets. Even though it was already Prince night and the tickets were already sold, and we want to attribute that to Ryan Saunders, but whatever. People already bought the purple jersey package. There was already 16,000 tickets sold anyway, and we're giving credit to Ryan Saunders for selling a freaking shutout. But maybe it's time to just start buying some season tickets because I'm so excited that another freaking baby... Is it baby flip or is it baby flop?
Yeah, but the call center coach will call up...
Dude.
The call center coach will call up potential... season ticket holders and talk to them on the phone. So
right. I was at the game yesterday, and I was looking at Twitter during the game, and I saw this tweet from Dane Moore, who covers the Wolves. He said, newly hired Jerry Seasting heavily influencing rotation decisions from the bench for the Wolves. Had Saunders switch from Taj Gibson, who was at the scorer's table ready to check in, to Anthony Tolliver because the Spurs had a smaller lineup. And it kind of raised my eyebrows because we hired him the day before the game, and he's already making key rotation decisions, substitution decisions. It's I don't know, it kind of speaks to Saunders, maybe not being ready for this.
He's totally not ready for it.
He's 32 years old. I don't know. It's tough for me to say that he's ready. And by no means, again, I'm not saying he's not going to be a good coach sometime. In 10 years, I would probably love to have Ryan Saunders here. But just at 32 years old and you're fighting for a playoff spot right now, I just don't think that Ryan Saunders is ready for it.
Well, we were fighting for a playoff spot until we fired our head coach. So if you look at the milestones that happened throughout this regular season, screw last year, let's just move on. We have the pre-trade era, right? So there's pre-Jimmy Butler trade where Tibbs didn't have control of the team. The media was throwing everybody under the bus. It was an absolute shit show. We heard about the practice, etc., etc., etc. Turns out Jimmy's just a fucking dick if you go ask Philadelphia. And then we have post-Jimmy Butler trade, okay? And then we have post-Thibodeau firing. So, let's forget about the first part of the year because our best player was basically backstabbing us and throwing us under the bus, not playing, bringing his girlfriend Rachel Nichols in to talk about how great of a basketball player he is. He works so hard and he's so into fashion. He's so cool. Nobody gives a fuck. So, let's move on to post-Jimmy Butler trade. Okay? Post-Jimmy Butler trade, Pat, was Tom Thibodeau coaching us to a playoff 8-seed or higher. I don't care what seed it is. Were we a playoff team under Tom Thibodeau?
Well, I guess record-wise, we were not a playoff team. I mean, we were only a couple games out, but our offensive rating and our defensive rating was at 10 and 12. We were like 12th in offense and 10th in defense. So that to me is a team that can compete for a playoff spot. Ever since Thibodeau's firing though.
So we're gonna go post Thibodeau.
Yeah.
So during basically the main portion stretch, the largest part in terms of a evaluation of the regular season so far. Like, we're talking multiple games here. How many games was he a coach? 20, 30?
Who?
Tibbs.
Thibodeau?
40.
Was it 40?
Right. So we're halfway through the season, and post Jimmy Butler trade, we're talking 30. How many games into the season were we?
We were 4 and 9 when we traded.
November 12th.
So post Jimmy Butler trade, which is a huge sample size. We're talking 1/4 of the season. We technically were a playoff team. Okay? So you're about to compare the numbers of a playoff team to, for some reason, we fired a coach who was a playoff coach and also won the game by 20 points against Los Angeles Lakers. Don't give a shit if LeBron wasn't playing. What are the numbers?
Well, ever since then, the Timberwolves are 15th in offensive rating, and they are 27th in defensive rating, which
27th's not good.
no, it's not. And I mean, everybody can say that it's because of Robert Covington being hurt and everything, and that has a lot to do with the defensive rating. But even if you add him, I don't see this team competing for a playoff spot.
Why?
I honestly, I think it's the head coach. I don't know.
I
if
have
he
to
knows what
agree
he's doing.
because in Tibbs' last few games, I was feeling like it was looking up, like they were getting ready to kind of put together a run to try and get sneak into the playoffs. And after they fired him, like, just my gut feeling was, it just feels like I said earlier, our reference, it just feels like it's heading towards a rebuild now.
Wasn't it back-to-back 20-point wins?
I think it was 17 and 22, so yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and then you fire a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we beat OKC in Saunders' first coaching game, but I don't know. I haven't seen much from.
The Wolves could be really good if they got the Wiggins effort they got that night.
Yeah.
Every game.
If Wiggins would stop standing in the corner like he did last game against San Antonio, that'd be great.
Now, speaking of standing in the corner, do you have that story that you wanted to talk about from Doris Burke and talking about Andrew Wiggins, who is honestly, this team actually, screw Ryan Saunders for a second. This team basically wins when Andrew Wiggins wants to engage himself, right?
Correct.
Cat gets his numbers. Cat is a marketable guy. Cat is probably the best player on the team. But at the end of the day, you need at least 2 stars to be in the playoffs in the NBA. Not 1 star, 2. And Wiggins is supposed to be that other guy. Jimmy Butler was. He's obviously gone. He cried his way out of here like the bitch that he is. And he's in Philadelphia now crying about everything. We need 2, and we need Wiggins to actually step up to the plate and become an elite player. What is your analysis and what have you read in terms of Doris Burke on Andrew Wiggins?
Well, Doris Burke basically said in the first half, Andrew Wiggins was fairly, efficient, dominant. He, scored a lot of points in the first half, and then all of a sudden the second half comes. He is not getting the ball. Plays are not getting called for him. He had 2 points, I think, in the third quarter, and basically spent the entire fourth quarter standing in the corner. She basically stands in the corner for several possessions, and he's the best player on the floor. He needs to demand the ball, which he does.
Do you truly believe that Andrew Wiggins is the best player on the floor?
I think he could be.
What do you think, TJ?
He's up there, just raw talent-wise, so yeah, you could consider him that.
I mean, he scored 40 points against OKC, and it looked dominating. I mean, the guy was aggressive. He, took the ball to the hole. He was, he took over that game and won us that game. And then you have games like yesterday against San Antonio where he's showing that effort, everything in the first half. And then he goes back to last year Andrew Wiggins, where last year he spent a lot of his time standing in the corner because, Butler is a ball dominant player and you need to get Cat involved. Well, Butler's not here no more, so we need Wiggins to become that ball dominant player. And we need him to start taking over. This team wins when Andrew Wiggins plays well.
Not only do they win, but when it was Butler, Wiggins, and Cat all flourishing, they were the 3 seed. They were on a different level than we ever expected them to be. So it's really disheartening that not only does that asshole Jimmy Butler get traded, so screw him, right? Let's move on. We're going to keep our younger players. We're going to build around them, and we're going to expect them to take us to the next level. Fine. That's the move. That's the decision. But then you're faced with that same guy, and you fold to the point where it's a 42-point loss. How disheartening is that as a fan base?
I was embarrassed. I kept watching the game. I watched the game from start to finish, and halfway through the second quarter, I'm like, why am I watching this? It was embarrassing.
Jimmy Butler's not that good. I mean, he's pretty good.
He's good.
But dude, I'm telling you, he's not as good of a shooter as a lot of these other elite players. He can be stopped. He can be. Chicago's already fizzled out of the playoffs how many times in the Eastern Conference when Jimmy was a younger player? You know what I mean? Like, his attitude and his work ethics gets him to the playoffs, but his attitude also wears on people. There's a difference between being a leader and being a jerk, okay? I'm completely okay and on board with Jimmy wanting to win and trying to be that guy to set a different mental game for the younger players. But he's going about it the wrong way. You can't go at these little millennial kids like, oh, this is the way it's going to be, and if you don't like it, then you can get lost. It's not going to work.
But he doesn't realize that.
Jimmy Butler's leadership. Do you think a coach is ever going to be able to rein him in and turn him into a true leader like LeBron?
I think Butler, as far as Philadelphia goes, I think he's kind of leading by example and with his, I'd say persona more than, his actual words and actions. I think they added him to a couple of young players that are already pretty good. Embiid's very good. Simmons can be very good. It's all new to them right now, so I think they kind of are following his lead as far as, that toughness that he brings and that intensity that he brings. And I feel like it's helping them now. But to your point, I don't know, I guess it remains to be seen. But, as far as him being a vocal leader and, that probably we'll see as the season goes along. But like you said, that does wear on people. So it'll be interesting to see if that is effective with those two guys, because there is a chance that it could go south.
I want Wiggins to get mad. I want Wiggins to say, all right, if there's smoke, motherfucker, I'm going to step up to the plate and I'm going to hold my own against you. I'm going to try to be that killer instinct for this team.
I think you're going to be waiting forever.
Yeah.
I said it on the last podcast, like, he was born into basketball. He doesn't have that extra, edge that you need to really exert your will on a game. It's just, we can all want it. It's just, I don't think it's ever going to come.
Yeah, you're going to be waiting a while. I mean, there's nothing else to say. We're in year 5, right? We're in year 5. He's what?
He
24?
needs a mental coach. Look, this is minor, okay? But when we're all on a court and we're playing for next, and we're shooting a free throw in order to play the next game, do we miss or do we make it?
Well, I want to play.
I make it. And I'm shitty at basketball. Okay? But I can fucking shoot when I want to. And I make the free throw to play the next game.
Well, Wiggins is always going to play the next game.
Exactly.
For the next 5 years, he already knows. Like,
when your team is like, okay, I need to hit this free throw. I need to focus. What he's thinking, I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, if I miss this, we're going to lose. I can't miss this no matter what. I better hit this, right? He needs to be thinking, fuck you, I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this shot, I'm going to make my next shot, and I'm going to take my team to overtime, and I'm going to hit that basket as well. Cat thinks that, even though Cat's always crying and bitching to the refs, Cat thinks that. Well, you can tell he has that toughness. I guess unless Jimmy Butler's involved, then he just wants to fade off into the distance and not care.
Well, or if Embiid's involved.
Like, what the fuck's happening with that? But there's players who have that mental game to them, and a free throw is all mental. Because these dudes have shot how many thousands and thousands and thousands of free throws throughout their life. They will be able to hit if they're facing their little brother, they can hit that free throw 10 out of 10 times.
Well, you can tell when Wiggins goes to the free throw line, he's not confident.
You can look at it, he's like, oh shit.
Especially if he misses the first free throw. You know that second one's not going in.
He is so mentally weak. So, how is Ryan Sanders? Ryan Sanders. This motherfucker is selling chicken. How is Ryan Saunders?
Colonel Saunders.
How is Ryan Saunders going to get into his head and challenge him to the point where he doesn't fold if Tibbs couldn't do it?
I don't know. He was playing basketball with him one-on-one today. I saw a tweet of that.
My money's on Wiggins if he felt like winning.
Well, he had the bad cop and it didn't really work, and now he's got the good cop and it doesn't seem like it's going to work either, so maybe he's just... Doesn't matter who the cop is.
I don't know. I don't know if it's getting worse or if it's, it's not better from Tibbs to Saunders.
I think with Wiggins, it's just the same. He just don't give a shit. He's got $140 million.
Well, yeah. After every game, he's like, "Oh, we just got to move on to the next one."
Good
short-term memory.
That's a good fucking
impression.
Sounds just like him.
Yeah, you sound just like him, dude.
But, I mean, it's always...
He sounds like a sad cartoon turtle in real life.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it's Eeyore, It's short-term memory. We got some winnable games coming up. Phoenix is thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
We're the worst team in the West, and we got the Timberwolves coming in here. Let's get a win.
Last time they played Phoenix, I know that they felt like they're just going to get that win. They're coming off that West Coast road trip where they're struggling. And I know that in their head they thought, oh, we'll just get this last easy win against Phoenix and then go back home and regroup, and Phoenix beat us pretty handily. So just to hear him even say we got a couple winnable games coming up, I'm like, man, you better get ready to play because, they're not just going to roll over for the Timberwolves.
I don't know if there's any winnable games the rest of the season. They just got to win. I mean,
Hey, but they're out of prison.
Yeah, they are.
They're out of prison. They can go do whatever they want.
Yeah,
they are.
We're really excited about getting interviews from the players. I want to hear about that 42-point loss. I want to hear about how you fucking folded in the game.
I would rather
last
not
night
hear Wiggins talk about how they got to have a short-term memory.
Thibodeau would have protected his ass and put him in the corner and say, "Don't talk."
Possibly, he could have.
So, one thing I wanted to segue to, and we've been talking about the Timberwolves here for a while. You guys know how I feel about Thibodeau. You know how I feel about, Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. Go ahead.
With just us spending the last, 10 minutes or whatever on Andrew Wiggins, what do we do with him? I guess that's the next thing. I mean, I said last podcast that I think I'm the only person in the state that is actually an Andrew Wiggins believer. I don't know if I am anymore after last game. I mean,
it's just because of those 2 free throws, though.
No, it's because of exactly what Doris Burke said. The guy was standing in the corner and doing nothing. I mean, demand the ball. She also said, if you don't have the ball and somebody else shoots, why don't you crash the boards?
He runs away.
Yeah, he runs back.
He doesn't
fake
try to get
like
a rebound.
He's playing defense. I mean, I don't. Can you trade him for what? What's anybody going to give you? Another bad contract?
Well, I'll tell you, if we can trade him for anything to get out of that contract, you do it.
Yeah, but
I disagree.
I've heard Otto Porter from Washington, and his contract is just as bad.
Why?
Because he's talented. I don't know. Obviously he's inconsistent. He has effort issues, but
effort issues is an understatement at this point.
Yeah, like I just don't. You just don't give away a guy with that talent. We've made a commitment to him. We have to, see it through. Like, it's definitely not easy. I don't know. It's bleak. It's not a sunny picture that I'm going to paint about him, but it's the position that we're in. We're going to have to, just keep doing whatever we can to figure it out to get him to play. That's our only, option. That's the only path we can go down. We can't treat him like a bad contract where we have to give up an asset to get rid of him. You watch the OKC game, you get glimpses of a player that can be great.
And my response to that is trade him while his fucking stock is high.
Is it high?
No, it's about as high as it's gonna get.
I don't even think it's gonna be high after a 40-point, 10-rebound game like he had against OKC. I mean, he has to have a string of games where he's playing, really well.
Which he will. He has.
He needs to revert back to how he was a couple years ago when he was averaging 24 points a game.
I mean, we made the investment of trading Kevin Love for him. We made the investment of signing him to a max deal. You can't, I don't know, like, to just try and give him away for whatever. Like, I just feel like that sets us back even further.
People are purposely fouling him so he goes to the line to take free throws. A $140 million player that has all the talent in the world is purposely getting fouled to go to the free throw because they know he's going to miss it because he folds under the pressure.
Yeah, I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying, like, we have to figure out a way. Got to find a way to get him to be productive and consistent. It's not going to be easy, but it's the task at hand.
Would a sports psychologist do the Timberwolves some good?
I mean, I don't see how it could hurt. I mean, at this point, you got to try anything.
How come they're the only team that I feel like doesn't have a sports psychologist?
Because there's never been a sports psychologist that's worked for the Timberwolves for them to rehire. I'm just saying. I mean, Taylor wants, guys that he's used to have. There's never been one, so you can't rehire them.
I don't know. It's a big thing with sports now. It's about belief. It's about attitude. It's about, belief in yourself. If you go to the line and the whole weight of the world's on your shoulders, you have to be cocky enough to know and good enough to know that you're going to make that shot no matter what the circumstance. You have to look at the camera, look at the guy holding the microphone, look at the scorer's table and say, screw all these guys, block out the noise, and hit the damn free throw. It's just a free throw. It's called a free throw because you're shooting with nobody in your face. It's all here, man.
Yeah, but LeBron has those same problems, with free throws.
LeBron has rings.
Yeah, he does, but I'm just saying, you can say it's just a free throw and it's all mental, but, the best player in the world also misses free throws in the fourth quarter.
What is his free throw percentage?
I think he's shooting less than what Wiggins is total.
What?
Yeah.
Well, LeBron ain't the GOAT then. Go ahead.